Hey, Millie, come on in.
Oh my gosh. Hi,
Welcome.
Rosa. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming and visiting my home studio. First one.
My first home studio. So I'm very excited for this.
That makes two of us. This is my first home studio also. So my name is Rosa Naday Garmendia. I am a multidisciplinary artist who uses an art practice to explore social issues. And this is my home studio, my very first one. So welcome.
Thank you so much. And I know this is your first home studio, but you've had several studios. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between working from home and working in a collective?
Sure. So for almost 10 years, I was in places like the Bakehouse, Art Center South Florida before it was Ulights, Laundromat Art Space, and Studio 106. And actually, I was very lucky the last 5 years that Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator hosted my studio spaces. So last year, it's someone else's turn. So as you know, rent has gotten very expensive. So this is my first home studio, and it has a lot of good things about it, but also I'm used to being in a community of artists, 15 studios, 10 studios. I think the height of that was really what used to be the Art Center South Florida was 75 different artists working at all times of days, the public coming in. So I really miss that, but I'm doing something to sort of make up for that. But one of the benefits of working, having a home studio is that even before I get up to go to work, I'll get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Before I have coffee, I'll come over and work on something that I sort of have it separated in different sections. This is work that I'm doing right now.
Can you tell us a little bit about this one behind you?
So I'm a multidisciplinary artist, but in the last 2 years, I've been focusing on letterpress printing. And I really love letterpress printing because of the history around and how it's been used for education and raising awareness. And because my work since 2014 focuses on social issues, I find it a really good vehicle to do that. So for the last 2 years, I've been working with Extra Virgin Press, and thanks to a couple of artist access grants and a partnership between Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator and Extra Virgin Press with Tom Virgin.
Tom is so nice.
I know, he's wonderful.
Shout out to Tom.
Yeah, and DVCAI. Yeah. So last year, I started working on a new project that sort of came out of the Mass MoCA artist residency that Ulight organizes, and it's focused on children books that are banned or removed from Florida public schools. Yeah. So I dedicate a print to a particular book. So this one, I'm interested in letterpress, but I'm also interested in pushing those barriers. So this one is sort of an installation that I'm working on. The actual print is just one print, which is not finished yet. I have to print one more day to, printmaking and letterpress in particular is really, I love it. It's very physical. Mm-hmm. And every color is a different run of the press. Like one color will take me 5 hours between setting up the press, setting up what you're doing, the design. I have a general idea, but I really am very much hands-on, and I work very instinctively with selecting the type. I have a general idea, but so it takes me about 5 hours to do one color. So actually, Mondays are my printing days.
Yeah.
And I'll be finishing up. This is a limited edition that will have about 15, but then I print extra because I like also trying to figure out pushing the print a little bit more beyond the one limited edition print. So I'm working on an installation. And so this is kind of work in progress. This is my work in progress wall.
And this one?
So I usually work onto like 3 things at one time.
You do? You work multiple projects?
Yes, at once. Because, for example, the printmaking, it has to dry. I have to wait a few days. one of the things I was able to do earlier this year is another artist residency in California in cahoots, which I loved. Almost 3 weeks of printing every day in this spectacular place run by Macy Chadwick, a master printer. And one of the things I explored there was printing on newspapers using letterpress print. So newspapers and paper has a challenge. And so this is an exploration on how to share the finished product. So it's mixed media.
I love
it's on
this.
a board. So it's an exploration on how to present the newspaper, the prints that I've been doing on newspapers. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to be working. Sundays are the days at work, a sort of full day at the studio, and Mondays are my printing days.
So this is your workspace.
Yeah, all of these 2 tables, which is very small. This morning, I was cutting paper and getting it ready for printing tomorrow. I'm also doing some digital work, digital graphics, and actually, that print
bread
is based on Fry Bread, exactly. Children books talks about the history, talks about fry bread being a nation, and it's a book that's being removed from Florida public schools.
That's incredible. I can't believe that.
One among 2,500 books. So that's kind of like, I'm working on that project. It's titled Forbidden Pages. And I've done some activations, showed it at some libraries. I'm getting ready for some exhibitions next year. Then the other project, this is also sort of like a work in progress, but
I saw this when I first came in, and it just grabbed my attention.
It's mixed media. So it starts off as print. And one of the things I love about printmaking is multiples, right? So
you take printmaking?
I took printmaking in college, but not letterpress printing. Letterpress printing, this is the first time I'm doing it. I've been doing it for 2 years now. There are master printers who have been printing for like 30 years. It is not my case. I don't think I can call myself a printer, but I am printing. But I noticed a few years ago that I use text, whether it's in painting or sculpture. And so somehow a few years ago, I decided, let me focus let me try out letterpress printing because of the use of type. And I love the physicality of it. It reminds me of the days I used to work in a factory. There's something about physical work and actually producing something tangible that I think is very, I love it. And I think other people do. So these are prints that didn't work out.
And you just put them together.
So then I collage them.
I think that
so this
works.
is another piece that I'm exploring, also different color, paper, and just collaging, drawing, painting, and exploring an installation with that type of work.
How was the residency?
The residency in Cahoots was fabulous because, as a working artist, which a lot of us are, the days that I focus on my practice are really my 2 days off. And sometimes I'll come and work at night, a couple of hours, or early in the morning before I'm off to my work, my job that pays my bills. But being able to almost 3 weeks, get up in the morning, have coffee, walk, I don't even know, 15 steps and go to this print shop was like amazing. And not having to deal with traffic, with work, with bill paying, with anything but
it's
printing.
Right in California, no?
Yeah, it's in Northern California. It's in Cahoots. It's actually west of San Francisco. The first time I'd ever been there. It's these little cottages, and the printmaking residency has etching presses, letterpress, book binding is something I want to also explore. And the other artists I was there with were fabulous. So it was really just, now especially, something that I'm trying to do is at least do one artist residency a year because it's concentrated time. The one previous to that was with Mass Milk of 5 weeks, organized and paid for by Ulites and their partnership with Mass Milk, and that was fabulous. That's where the series of focusing on the book banning started. So it gave me time to research, to read, to talk about, and develop the basis of the project. So this is another print that, one of the things that in Cahoots is that they have larger presses. The press that I work on here with Tom is a smaller press, so I was able to explore larger paper. But again, this is a mixed media. I'm actually figuring out how I can access larger presses locally so I can expand a little bit on that. But the subject matter is, banned books. So yes.
I remember this.
Yes, this is
Can you share a little bit about that
Of
for maybe the
course.
viewers that don't know?
So in 2014, Michael Brown was killed by police, and it had happened after a number of folks were killed prior to that. And I think there was just a lot of outrage. I was at the Art Center South Florida at the time, my studio there.
I remember that studio.
What is now Ulite Arts. And actually it was very transformative for me. At that point, I decided that I would focus on social justice issues. So there's a lot of research involved. It was one of the focuses of my work from 2014 to 2022. And this is one of 9 columns that are organized by decades, and they each there's a name brick of a Black person killed by the police. And it starts with 1979 with Arthur Lee McDuffie, because I remember as a kid when he was murdered by the police. So it begins with that brick, and it comes up to 2022. I'm still working on that, but not as focused as before. And that one there were offshoots from that work. The columns were the principal work. And in 2022 at the Havana Biennial, I was able to build it site-specific and in its totality at that point. There's other work, like, for example, a flag installation. Because one of the things I realized that when the work traveled to different places, if folks were not following the news, which now they don't even mention anything, but at that time, before George Floyd was murdered, people wouldn't know what the names represented. So I did some mixed media works on paper and then turned them to digital graphics, turned them into flags. So the conversation took different shapes, from the name bricks and columns to flags to other works on paper. And the printmaking actually started with a project that started with it came out of Rituals of Commemoration, which is the title of that work. And it's a series of posters, this is a project that I'm gonna work on when I get funding for it. It focuses on Black folks killed by police in Florida, 189 since 2000.
We definitely have had a lot of problems in Florida. I lived near the riots when I was little.
Right. McDuffie, yeah. These are the first prints that I did, letterpress prints. So they're very, they document a little bit the name of a person, where, just very little bit of. And so this is something that I'll be working on. I'm writing, it's going to be called They Were Here, Rituals of Commemoration, but it sort of comes out of the work that I did for 10 years around.
That's incredible. Grand Rapids.
Yeah. So, yes, this is sort of what I'm working on. And one of the benefits too about is challenging working at home.
What do you find? Do you have any rituals? Like your day starts or is it kind of like the freedom to be able to be at home and work in your underwear if you wanted to?
Well, this is interesting because now I get up early. I get up it's early for me, 6:45 or so. And that was sort of because I needed to organize myself to go to work. But so now, as soon as the sun comes up, before 7, I'm up, I brush my teeth, go to the restroom, and with shorts on, I come and either sit here and look at something I left yesterday that was unfinished, I'm still thinking about. I'll fix myself some coffee, and I'll sit over there or sit somewhere here and look at what I did the previous day. So in that sense, it's really great because as soon as I get up in the morning,
you're ready to go.
I'm ready to go. My head is already ready. But at the same time, it also saves like when you have a studio outside of your home, you have to drive to that place.
That's right.
And traffic
and driving in Miami is not
horrible.
fun.
Exactly. So it saves me time, but like I said earlier, I really miss just going next door and talking. It's like, hey, come over here, que tengo un problemita. You know, what do you think about the placement of this? You know, and I'm used to having
the other artists
some input and you know, some critical dialogue around some work that I'm developing. So I'm planning to overcome that. I'm thinking of inviting friends to come over to look at work.
I have to say, I love your apartment.
Well, it's one of the benefits too. It's very bright.
It is. You have these amazing windows.
Yeah, that's something that I really need is like bright light and natural light, because otherwise I get like bummed out.
And your workspace is so organized.
Can you know,
like share some of your
yes, of course,
toys.
You know, every time I moved studios, I had to get rid of things, because to get rid of artwork and get rid of materials. If I'm not using something for 2 years, I can't store it. I have another this closet also has, and I'm very organized because I'm a very visual person. So this is another section of materials that are not used as much. So I only bring them out when I'm going to use them. I cannot do spray paint here.
But this is insane. Well, you're very organized here.
You know, I'm a visual person, and visual chaos for me doesn't work.
Doesn't work. Really?
No,
yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I have friends who've invited me to eat a Chinese buffet. I can't eat a Chinese buffet because it's too much color, too much food. It overwhelms me. I can't.
So you have to have.
I have to have a level of
clean workspace.
Yeah.
And tidy. And be tidy.
Yeah, and you know, because it's limited space, I bring out what I'm using, and when I'm done with it, I have to put it away so I can create space. I really just have 2 spaces and the wall, and this is the wall I work on. Then these 2 pieces, they're not quite finished yet. I take a little time to get away from them. And
did you install the track lights yourself?
No, my wonderful roommate, who's also an artist, Acer St. Ball.
I know Acer. Hi, Acer.
He's been wonderful. He's the one who installed the lights for me, which has been like a game changer.
Game changer. They're fabulous.
Yeah. Even before the studio, he says, "No, Rosa, you got to get rid of those lights.
You need lights.
I got track lights. Let's put on some track lights."
And I love it because they surround the entire room.
Yeah.
So you can move them around.
Yeah.
Oh, what's this?
And then yes, this is the other project. So I'm working on printing on newspapers as a way to sort of like talk about what I think is important in current developments versus what the newspapers say is important. I'm working on the series of forbidden pages, focusing on books that are banned in Florida public schools. And the other thing I am working on is a friend of mine, an artist, Moises Aragon, and I presented a project to the Havana Biennial, the 15th Havana Biennial. So, and we got accepted. It happens in November.
I am so happy for you.
Yeah, this is my second Havana Biennial. Yeah, so I'm very happy because
I have not been able to attend one.
Well, November through February. It is a perfect opportunity. So the project is based on, it's a community arts project. It is based on, the theme of the biennial is Horizontes Compartido, shared horizons. Mm-hmm. And there's a big emphasis on, of course, one of the most serious topics of the world today is global warming, what's happening with our Mother Earth planet.
Are we even going to have one?
Exactly. Coral bleaching. So this project is titled Salvar el Planeta ¿Cómo? Save the Planet How? And it's based on printmaking. And it's going to be a carretilla. You know how in Latin America, as in Cuba, there's street vendors, yes. Carretilleros. So of course in Cuba there are carretilleros, and it has a whole historical, you know, before newspapers and radios existed, el pregonero, the person in the street, the town crier, was the person who announced news or gossip or what was happening. So the pregonero and the carretillero are like sort of like evolution of one of another. Mm-hmm. So the idea is I'm working with a fabricator in Havana to build a cart that's going to go to different neighborhoods in Havana. I'm going to show you some of the AI generated ideas. So it's going to go with printmaking supplies, very basic linoleum, tools, small paper. We're going to use recycled paper. The wood to build the card is also recyclable. Water-based inks, and kids and youth are going to sort of print their own, they're going to make their own prints and kind of cards to talk about what they do, what they can do to help save the environment, really.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
This, for example, I went to Havana to visit family a month ago, and this one is so I did a little pilot with my cousin's kids, a Chino. He's 10 years old. So he did the leaf, and he put los árboles nos dan oxígeno y lo debemos cuidar.
Oh,
so trees give us oxygen, we should take care of them. So that's kind of the idea. Kids are going to print, and then they're going to use stamping.
The creativity about this.
Yeah, and so this is, I'm workshopping. I'm going to be carving them myself, and they're going to print. So these are some of the ideas of the carts. Of course, these are sort of AI generated. But the idea is they're going to be made out of wood. They're going to be attractive, colorful,
and they're able to move around. Oh my!
And they're going to be on wheels, but small. And then it will open up so that the kids can actually print. There's going to be small prints, and I will keep one, and they will take. The good thing about multiple printing is they'll do more than one. So that's kind of the general. And I have these posters. I designed these posters that I'm trying to figure out which one I should use. It's going to be in Spanish, but I'm going to make some in English. So I'm trying to figure out which design is best. I'm not quite sure yet. So it has the title of the project, what kids going to be doing. Diaspora Culture Arts Incubator is going to be supporting myself and Moises in this project.
Mm-hmm. And it's such amazing work.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I really like engaging folks who are not artists. And the work I do with the museum is actually art making and talking about art with youth. So
tell us about that. Tell us about your time, because you and I worked in the same place for years, and you still work there.
Yes.
So you are a gallery teacher, no?
I'm a teaching artist.
Teaching artist
at the
That's
Perez
what they used to
Art
call
Museum.
It, like back in the day.
Exactly. I'm a teaching artist. I'm actually lead teaching artist because I've been there.
You've been there so long.
For 14, 15 years.
My gosh.
So part-time, a lot of that time, but since 2019, I became full-time. And I love talking about contemporary art with children and with youth. I love contemporary art, and it feeds my practice. I have to do a lot of research every time there's a new exhibition, a new collection. And I love the work that I do there because we use art as a starting point to teach and facilitate critical thinking.
Yeah, you're making a mark on these young minds, and it's so important.
Yeah, and especially today when things are, so I really love that. Of course, it takes away, I spend 40 hours a week doing that. It pays my basic bills. And so then the rest of the time I dedicate to my practice. And right now, in the last few years, I'm very focused. My time off is dedicated to my practice. Everything is built around that. It hasn't always been that way. So yes, I enjoy, but if I had, in a perfect world, I would prefer to work part-time because I still love the stimulation. I love the contact with people. I love learning, and the music, that particular job you learn something new every single day. And I really like that. But part-time would be wonderful. And then I could dedicate more time to my practice. Yeah.
What do you find is your favorite materials to work with? Because you are definitely multidisciplinary and you do everything. You do sculptures and prints. And do you have a favorite, or is it what calls you at the moment?
Yeah, I was trained as a painter. So
you were trained as a painter?
As a painter. I was a realistic painter. Painting and drawing and watercolor were my basic love skills. And at some point, I remember when I decided just to explore, because for me, art making and my practice is about communication. So depending on what I am interested in communicating, what ideas I'm interested in then determines what I do. And right now, I'm in love with printmaking and specifically letterpress printing. I just
So
look
interesting.
forward every Monday. I go print, and it's very satisfying. It can be very challenging. I'm learning. English is not my first language, and I think I have some type of level of dyslexia. I'm not sure. So when I print words and imagery. So on the press, everything is backwards. So for me, it's horrible. It's a terrible challenge. And because I don't print every day, you lose muscle memory. So everything that I did Monday last week, when I come back, I'm like faced almost again. It's like riding a bicycle, but so you almost have to restart. And even though I've been doing it for 2 years now, it's still very challenging, but I love it. I love cleaning the press, setting up the press. And also the other part about printmaking that actually is very good that is happening now is very collaborative. So usually there are print shops. There's different people that are printing at the same time. So I have a little bit of that communication with other artists that I no longer have in the studio. So I'm happy for that. So right now I'm interested in letterpress printing and expanding the size and just exploring different things with it, different ways of printing. I'm using linoleum blocks, which I love carving. It's almost like drawing. I'm also doing relief printing along with the letterpress. It's relief printing is what it is. So I'm exploring different things. Polymer plates, which you can design online, on the computer. They're very specific, but I love wood type because wood type, has a texture. And the other thing I like is that not every print is the same. Master printers, every print is very close. But for me, I don't care about that. They're similar enough, but as you'll see, some are lighter, some are darker. In the middle of a press run, I like to change colors, add. So it's just very, I think it comes from my painting experience that it's very intuitive. And once I do something, I'm bored by it. I'm done with it and I have to move on. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, that's so printmaking right now, letterpress. This is my love right now, 2 years. And that's what I'm working on.
Can you tell us about your time with Diaspora Vibe?
So I've been very fortunate to have Rosie Gordon-Wallace and Diaspora Vibe Cultural Arts Incubator take an interest and support of my work. Since 2012, I'm also been very...
That's a long time.
Yes. I'm a co-chair of Diaspora Vibe's board. Mm-hmm. Rosie, since 2012, has invited me on cultural exchanges that she organizes through Diaspora Vibe. And I've been very fortunate to travel to the Caribbean to meet artists. I've been to places like Suriname, Antigua, Jamaica. We just came back this year from Bermuda, Panama, Belize, to talk to artists from the Caribbean. Diaspora Vibe focuses on nurturing and supporting artists from the Caribbean and Latin America. Mm-hmm. So that's really opened up a lot of doors for me. I've grown as a person, find the things that we have in common, not only as artists, but as people. And I think that's very important today, finding commonality versus our differences, even though we have differences.
Yeah.
So, DVCAI supported my studio for several years, which was wonderful because there's something to be said having a workspace in a space where there are other artists.
Do you miss that in terms of, that?
That's what I miss the most. I feel a little bit isolated here, even though I work with artists at the Perez Art Museum. We're always talking about our practices. I just borrowed from Noah this overhead projector, which was wonderful, and I didn't work out, but so I miss that communication and connection. What are you working on? What tools are you using? Oh, this doesn't look right. Or asking even questions about why are you doing this? I think that exchange is very important. And I think part of having the artist residencies for me is not only concentrated time away from work, mm-hmm. but also having that exchange and dialogue with artists in a space where we're producing work or thinking about or researching. And, even though I geographically live here, I'm not limited by my geography. I'm very
No.
much a
Yeah.
person who thinks outside of the place where I live and what's happening in the world and other cultures, other people. So, yeah.
You mentioned you have a few artists that live in your building. It's by coincidence.
It's by coincidence because my roommate, Aser, and I, we started to, this looking for connection and looking for other people. We did 2 open sort of studios at home.
That's incredible.
The first one we invited some artists, and so the walls were covered with different artists' projects, works of art, and we had like an open studio. And then the second time we did art hopping. So what happened is that we found that there were other artists in the building, painters, graphic designers, musicians. So the second time we did it, we had folks go to different apartments. So we're gonna actually do another one. So every time we do it, we find other people and other artists. So that's been really interesting and a nice little project. We don't have a name for it yet. But yeah, we're going to keep doing it and see how it goes.
That's amazing because you have such a great space.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite artists? Like, where do you draw your inspiration from? Is it just something that you think about, or maybe if you see a work of art that you really love and it just kind of makes an impact?
That's a difficult thing for me to say because, and this is one of the benefits one of the things I love about working at the Perez Art Museum as a teaching artist. I am always researching and I'm always looking at contemporary art. And if you're a researcher or a reader, you look this up and it takes you to the rabbit hole and it's like a never ending research. One thing takes you to another. So there's a lot of artists that I like. I don't like everything, but I think for me, the artists that make an impression are the ones that do something or tell a story in a new and different way. So, when I was in art school, modern artist, I was a traditional painter and so all the modern artists and for different reasons. Right now, I'm very focused on printmaking. So I'm looking at printers around the country and around the world. So that's what I'm doing and using a traditional medium, which is printmaking and letterpress in particular, and seeing how other artists are using that around the country to talk about what's happening today or to push the boundaries of that. So now I'm just really embedded in that. All my Instagram people I follow are printers from Mexico to Cuba to San Francisco and everywhere.
You're Cuban like me, like
yes.
We come from, and I find, not because we're Cuban, but there's incredible artists in Cuba.
Yeah.
There's so much creativity there. It's like if you turn on a faucet, it's never ending.
Yeah.
Water of creativity. I don't know how they managed to do that with such little resources.
Well, one important aspect, I've been traveling back and forth to Cuba. Actually, I think there are 2 reasons why I live in Miami. I have a love-hate relationship with Miami.
Me too.
2 reasons I live here. One is the climate. Even though I complain, I lived in different cities in the United States. I cannot stand snow, shoveling snow, or layering up.
No, I can't live anywhere cold.
Do that.
Caribbean girls through and through.
Yeah. So the climate, I like it hot, not as hot as it's been. I like it humid. I like the brightness of the sky, the light in the Caribbean. And the second reason is because I can travel to Cuba often. Most of my family lives there, so I go 4, 5, 6 times a year. I exhibit there since 2012, from Santiago de Cuba all the way to Pinal del Rio, Havana. I do projects almost once a year there. And they have free education. So the art schools are free. And unlike
and very difficult from what I've heard. They really.
But the training.
They're trained is hardcore.
Every Cuban artist I know, and I know many because I've been building relationships for a long time, they almost have a doctorate in art. So they know how to print. Every contemporary artist in Cuba knows how to draw, knows how to paint, has a printmaking. Whether you're a ceramic artist, they are taught in the basics
Of everything.
of everything,
Yeah.
and including new media. So, and it's free. So people go to school for 8 years in art. So you produce, and also one of the reasons I got involved in trying to exhibit in the biennials in Havana, which I used to attend as a spectator, is the accessibility that the general public has to events of the biennial. They're usually out in the street and in institutions, but there's a real focus on making culture available to every person, regardless of your income or your social status. I mean, one thing that really upsets me around Art Basel is that you have to pay to go to fairs, and I think that's ridiculous.
And it goes up every single year.
So I really dislike that. But of course, the fairs are organized based on the market. It's a different perspective. So yes, I sort of live between two shores. I keep my feet here, I work, and then I travel as often as I can to the place where I was born and where my family lives. So
I think, that's a great part of living in Miami. It's just the proximity of it.
To the Caribbean, to other places. And immigrants, you see most immigrants in South Florida, they do that. They keep their feet and contact with the place where they were born, where their family, their culture, their heritage. And so in that way, Miami is very unique.
I keep eyeing the pieces in the back. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah. These are older pieces. I've worked on paper a lot, and I used to draw a lot, and drawing was one of my loves. I love drawing, and so charcoal. So these are collages I did quite a long time ago. Some of the pieces trying to break away from the rectangle, trying to do three-dimensional pieces. So each one sort of represents
I see some text too.
Yeah, a series of works that I did.
These are really interesting.
Those were a series that I did on foam. So they sort of exploring the three-dimensional aspects and keeping within drawing. Yes, and then some are this one is mine, but some are, I used to, before my studio was here, one of the benefits of being in art in spaces where you are in contact with a lot of different artists is that we would trade works of art. So I have a really nice collection of artist friends' work. For example, this one from Martin, who's an Argentinian artist who lives and works in Miami, Anthony Ardevan, who I shared a space with at the Bakehouse. But and of course, Acer, but he lives here. I have, this one is by Pablo Cano, but I have to remove almost all of the collections.
Love so much.
Because I don't have space. But come, I'll show you some other in my room. I keep, these are works of mine. These are part of the letterpress prints that are focused on the children books. I had these framed for the exhibition at the Hispanic Library earlier this year. And I'm getting ready for another library exhibition at the Miami Beach Regional next year. I have to keep the lights. So I have a little bit of a collection here that I've been able to keep of other artists' work. But yeah, I have a nice collection.
Who's this?
That's also Anthony Ardevan. It's Babette. She lives on the west coast of Florida now. Moises
is here. Yeah.
Moises used to work at Pam. Yes. This is a Mexican artist. Oh
my gosh, I love that.
I forget his name.
This kind of reminds me of us here too.
Yeah. It's actually it's very surrealistic. Yeah.
This is so pretty.
This is an artist that used to be at the Bakehouse, lives in Texas now. Rick, and I forget his last name. Nicot is a Cuban artist who lives in the building next door. When we have our open studios, we're trying to get him to be part of that.
This is great. And Berta?
Berta is Moises.
Oh my gosh, this is Moises.
This is Moises' piece. This is the artist I'm going to be collaborating with. He's also doing a project for the biennial, and there's parts of it that intersect. We're using the carretilla as our starting place. He works with he does performance and fabric. So he's going to be working on a project too that is that involves the audiences in the community and the art making. Is that a friend of mine, Richard, is a Cuban artist who lives here. And then there's several. I have other. This is a friend of mine, Kurt Nahar, who lives in Suriname. This is a Pablo Cano. This is you just interviewed her, Donna.
This is Donna.
Yeah. So
how'd you get Donna's work?
She was generous. I think we traded.
That's the best part, is you guys could trade. Yeah, I have a little collection because I am surrounded by artists.
Yeah, we trade now. And this is also Anthony Arteman.
This is Anthony.
Yeah. So yeah,
this is insane. Look at the detail on this.
Yeah, I don't buy art. I trade.
Me encanta los dominos.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So
it's incredibly cool. I love your collection.
Yes. Well, thank you. I don't have as many now as I used to, but because I have to make more of a point of trading again with artists.
I really love these. I don't know if I could show that because of the booby spot.
Oh, yes.
YouTube won't. But I just love it. You have such an amazing space.
Well, thank you. Yes, this is it's comfortable because I get up and I get to work. I don't have to leave to go anywhere, but I'm really, I'm not a homebody. I'm used to being out and about. So this is kind of new for me.
Do you or Sarah play chess?
This is a Sayers.
That's a Sayers.
Yes.
That is insane.
Yeah.
A Sarah, I'm taking this. No, just kidding.
And, a Sayers a musician too. So he plays the piano, he plays the guitar.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
I know he does music.
Yeah. He's a Renaissance man.
A Renaissance man, completely. But always, I have actually in my collection, I have a very tiny Acer, which I love.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Can I ask you, what's next? If you're currently working on so many projects, but is there like a wish list of stuff that you would like to do maybe down the road in the future?
So I'm working on the Forbidden Pages collection because I have 2 exhibitions next year, and I don't work based on exhibitions. It just happens that I've been doing the work and I have an opportunity to share. So, but I have to do more printing for that. I'm working on the project for the Havana Biennial, and the what I spoke about earlier, this project that made of coasters.
Yeah,
189 Black folks killed by police that I want to turn into a book that I would then donate to libraries in Florida. So that's something I've been writing about and trying to pitch to people who will fund it for 2 years now. But so this is something that, the problem is time. I don't have time, but I always have ideas and things that I want to do. But
how important is it, do you think, for artists to do residencies? I don't know that they understand to kind of leave and experience another location can feed so much.
Yeah.
And you've done it a few times. Is it very difficult to do, or?
Well, most of my work is funded by grants. And for me, because I am an artist who works for a living outside of my practice, residencies are so important because it's concentrated time. I mean, that was really, to me, the 5 weeks I spent at Mass MoCA were really like a game changer, because I'd done a few residencies before, but 5 weeks of concentrated studio time were for me like
that's
incredible.
Heaven.
Yeah. So there's that aspect where you can actually produce with not having to worry about having to go to work, having to pay your bills, you have to take care of something, your car has a flat tire, the water is not running today, these typical things that could happen. So that's one thing. I think travel, being able to get out of your space is so important, especially not even just for artists, for anyone, to be able to see there are many ways of doing things. And I think it's important for people to learn about different ways of living, different values, different cultures. So getting away from the place that you are in I think it's very important, especially today with what's happening in the world. But
Right.
as for artists also, because it just makes you see things differently. It's an objective situation and experience that just changes. All of a sudden, it helps you organize your life, I think, and just decide what is valuable and help you decide what is important to you as a person, as a human being, as an artist. So I think they're crucial, really.
What's your advice to students or young artists? Is there anything that you learned the hard way that you wish that you were told? If somebody could
I
have
learned
told
everything
you?
the hard way. I am very hard-headed, and I'm always questioning things. So when people told me things, and but for real, but seriously, actually, it's something, for me, my art practice always is also a way for me to learn about myself and my place in the world, right? So I think for me, being uprooted at an early age and sort of dropped in a society, it was very different from what was my natural environment at the time: culture, food, language, and family. And being abruptly removed from that, I think it really it sort of put everything into question about who I am and what do I do with my life. So I am very jealous of young artists who from the get-go know that they want to be an artist. Even though I was drawing and painting from a very young age, it was an escape for me. So that's all I did. And I in school, that's what I did. I drew. I won awards for the high school that was my escape. And then I knew I was going to be an artist, but I didn't know how to make money at it. So I did different things. I went to art school in different places. I started a master's degree that I quit, and I felt that art had no relationship to life, what was happening in the world at the time that I was doing my master's. So I decided that's not what I want to do. So it was really troubling for me. I spent 10 years doing other things. I worked in industry. I moved to different cities. I was tired of Miami and the Cuban drama in Miami, and I went to New York and lived in New York, Minnesota. That's how I found out. I lived in Detroit for 5 years, that I don't want to live where there's snow anymore.
Yeah.
So for me, it's been a sort of a road that I have. It's harder, it's harder when you're building your own, when you're trying to figure out things for yourself versus doing what other people are doing. And there are things I knew that were other people doing, friends, family, that I wasn't interested in. Like I wasn't interested in having children.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in getting married, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And art making was part of that, but it wasn't a focus. So one advice I have for younger people is to listen to yourself, listen to what you want to do, and not get caught up in what other people want you to do. I think especially for women too, that can be very challenging. Family, friends, everybody has an idea of what life should be like. But I think at the end of the day, you have to decide for yourself. And when you're not part of the norm or you don't want to do what most people are doing, it's difficult to make your own road. So listen to yourself and try different things and explore. But you have to listen to yourself, because at the end of the day, you're going to end up doing if you're lucky, what you want to do. And I think so. It's taken me a very long time to do what I want to do, which is the place where I'm at now. And I've been for a little bit, so I'm happy for that. But yes, you have to listen to yourself, I think.
That's wonderful
That
advice.
would be, yeah.
Rosa, gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming.
For welcoming us, you're welcoming us into your home. So that's so special to me. Thank you. Thank you. It means the world to me. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and link all of Rosa's information. So please follow her and her projects and just anything you want to know about her. We'll have contact information there. So you can ask her questions yourself if we missed anything.
Thank you, Millie. This is wonderful, because especially at a moment like this where I'm sort of in a studio at home, which is new for me, to have you come and visit and share with folks, it's really special also.
Thank you so much. Thank you.